Good evening, and welcome to Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Love Bay family, we are rising out of the ashes together. Our topic on tonight is relationships after domestic violence. We have with us our co-host, Jeniffer Peterkin, who is also the host of the Human Experience podcast. Our guest on this evening will be Minister Constance Perkins. Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our guest or co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. You can also text any questions that you might have to 437-778-3299. If you have any resources that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, any local organizations, or your faith community, you can also email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. And with that, Jen, if you would greet our listeners for the evening.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone tuning in today or, at another time. So happy to be here again as a co-host on Suffering in Silence. I always love being a co-host or a guest on Suffering in Silence. T and I have been friends for a few years now. We got connected because of some similar experiences that we had, having both been survivors of domestic violence in our marriages. So, and after I got out of my situation, much like Tia, I got involved in advocacy work. So it's been quite the journey to get here today, but super proud of where I've come from. And that has absolutely informed the project that I am working on now, which is the Human Experience podcast, which you can find on all major podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio. And you can follow us along on Instagram at the HX Pod for updates and more information.
Mm-hmm. So, Jen, if anyone wanted to be a guest on your program, how would they reach out to you?
Yes. So normally, I would point you to my website, thehxpod.com. It is currently under construction, though. So hopefully launching back up in July. But for right now, DM me on Instagram. I answer my DMs, I check my DMs. And if you are interested in telling your story, I would love to talk to you about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we have to mention, that you are not just the average storyteller or interviewer. You actually travel. Jen travels to those that she is interviewing. So, and her interviews have taken her around the globe.
Yeah, actually, I just got a application today for somebody that wants me to come interview them. They're in Bali. So wow. That is super exciting for me because any excuse to travel, I'm there, but especially somewhere like Bali, no hardship for me.
Awesome. Okay, listeners. So if you want to connect with Jen, you know how to do that. And her program is awesome. It really is. We want to share with you some information. First, I want to share, and Jan too will, I'm sure she'll be sharing some more information also. But the Voices of the Millennials 2023 event, that will be Saturday, July 22nd at the Humber Valley United Church. The address is 76 Anglesey Boulevard. I want to say Etobicoke, Etobicoke. I'm so sorry if I pronounced that the wrong way. M9A3C1. So again, the Voices of the Millennials 2023 event is coming up on Saturday, July 22nd. And I'm sure Jan too will be sharing some more information about that. As a resource, we also want to share again, Pastor Darius Daniels, pastor of Change Church. He has several locations in the U.S. His website is dariusdaniels.com, DHARIUS. His YouTube channel is Darius Daniels TV. And again, I provide this as a resource for those who are at a place in your healing journey where you're ready to take another step, where you're ready to go a bit deeper, where you're ready to go to another level, I suggest connecting with Darius Daniels and his ministry for that. But we have in Australia the National Family Violence Counseling Service. Their website is www.180respect.org.au. Their phone number is 1-800-737-732. We have Befrienders Volunteer Action to Prevent Suicide. To find a helpline by your country, you can visit their website, which is www.befrienders.org. And then we have the Canadian Women's Foundation. Their website is canadianwomen.org. Their number is 1-866-293-4483. And with that, listeners, we go into our topic on this evening. Minister Connie will join us as soon as possible. But again, our topic on tonight is relationships after domestic violence. Now, the very first thing that I want to say is that it is okay to be single or in a relationship. The main goal is that you should be healthy, you should be happy. The main goal should be that you are prepared either way and that you are taking care of yourself either way. It's absolutely fine if you don't want to go on to be in another relationship, and it's fine if you do. I know there's, first of all, just being single, remove abuse from the situation. There's pressure because it's like people just feel like you're supposed to be married or in a relationship. So there's just pressure anyway. But then, you add in trauma, you add in abuse and working through it, and it seems like at some point others looking in feel like, all right, you're ready now. You should go on. You should be over it. You should have moved past it. So you should be with somebody now. And that's it's irritating.
It is irritating. It's hard too. Yeah. Because, especially as women, a lot of, and this isn't solely an issue in one place in the world. Globally, a lot of women's value is tied to their relationship status, and the severity of it differs from country to country. But you have all the way from like women who are in a relationship, married with kids, whatever, are respected more, to women are seen as property. So, being married is just basically changing hands. I mean, there's just a lot of levels of that, but overall, there is a lot of value placed on women's relationship status. And I like what you said about, not having a timeline to be ready to get back into a relationship, and other people thinking that you should be or you shouldn't be. And I was just talking to my mom the other day about the fact that people have just recently stopped asking me about my relationship status. Just recently. And it still comes up, but it's so interesting. And I will say that for me personally, having only been in my relationship within my marriage for a relatively short amount of time, I think people see that and say, oh, well, like, it wasn't that long. You have so much life ahead of you. You can
give it another try.
Yeah, exactly. And what that fails to address is the fact that, yes, the longer the trauma, the worse it is. Absolutely. But trauma is trauma. And once the damage has been done, there's no turning back from that.
Right. Like you can't put a time frame on it. Okay. And so again, Love Bae, my story. I got divorced after being with my ex-husband for 19 years. We were married for 19 years. So we were together for 21, 22 years. But that's over. That's done. I'm moving on. I've been divorced for I think my divorce was final in May for like 7 years now. So I've been away from him for like 8 or 9 years. Um, and I do want to be in a relationship. I want to be married. I do. That's something that I want. I want a healthy, whole relationship. Um, but I'm not as I guess in a rush as other people around me are. And it's weird. So for me, it's like people, they don't stop asking. It's like they stop asking during certain parts of the year. So when we
Oh, really?
it really is like when spring, summer rolls around, that's when people start asking me. Either they ask me if I'm in a relationship or they try to find someone for me.
That's so interesting.
I had a friend call me from Texas. She's, she said, I know some pastors in Philadelphia. I'm going to.
No.
No, don't do that. You don't have to do that. I'm okay. I'm okay. I do want to be in a relationship, but I don't want anybody trying to fix me up or anything
Yeah.
like that. You
Yeah.
know, so it's like it's just something about spring and summertime, and then when the holidays roll around. Now I have my own thoughts and my own feelings. Yes, I do. You know, I want to be with someone, and and I think about it, and I am ready. I'm waiting for God to do whatever God's want to do. To make this happen. I'm not searching and looking. But I do have my own thoughts. I do have my own feelings. It's just irritating when I have to like control other people. Like it's like it's one thing if I ask you to, do you have any friends or maybe set me up, or if I bring up the conversation, want to talk about it. That's one thing if I bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
But to have several different people constantly is like they feel like they don't see me.
Right.
So I'm supposed to, be out there. And I really want to say, you can be happy while you're single. And as a matter of fact, if you're not happy while you're single, you don't need to be in a relationship.
There it is.
You cannot wait for somebody else to make you happy.
Yeah.
And where I am today at 47, I love this. I used to have a T-shirt that said "Forever 29," and I'm rethinking it. I'm like forever 47 because I'm right now. I really am.
Yes.
I have so much more now in my life than I did in those 19 plus years that I was with someone else. And I've only had 2 serious relationships in my life. So after I was divorced, I did date someone, and we were going to get married, but we didn't. That didn't work out. So I only had 2 serious relationships. That obviously they were not right for me, but I learned so much. I am a different person. And the other day I was really thinking about it. Who I am today, where I am today, is nowhere near what I was or who I thought I was when I was 18, or when I was in my 20s or my 30s, even my early 40s. And I was really thinking about, my early life, and, thinking about what I wanted. I truly do not believe that I was searching for or trying to accomplish what was truly making me happy. I was really trying to fit my life into an image of what I thought happiness was supposed to be. Like I was trying to force myself into that mold. Like I've said before, I wanted the big house with the white picket fence and 2.2 kids, and a dog. Okay, but that was my idea. All right, that's happy America. And then going to church, I accepted my call into ministry. I'm like, okay, now go to church every Sunday, and I pray and minister to people. But my line of thought was following up with what I thought happiness was supposed to be, based on what I was seeing from other people's. Because as a kid, I didn't know. Like I didn't have healthy, whole relationships demonstrated in front of me.
Yeah.
So I was going off of what I thought it should be like, and what I thought I would like, and what I, wanted it to be. And it wasn't real. Even if you remove abuse from the situation, it wasn't real. And I can truly say I really didn't know myself at 20 years old, at 25, whatever. I didn't, I think there are some things in my character that there just are, I'm organized. That's not, what? I just am. That's not going to change. But I have some true likes and dislikes. And I think there's a part of me that I was pushing away because
Mhm.
I was trying to live up to that dream of what I thought
Sure.
was going to make me happy. So there were parts of me that I didn't acknowledge. I just, I like all kinds of music, and then being in a church, it was like, well, you can't listen to this music, you can't watch these movies, you can't do that. I know that was a bit off the deep end. you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like me, who I am. I love music. I love different kinds of music. I like different kinds of movies. John Wick is awesome. The Avengers, like, come on, Thanos. If I could snap my fingers, I love to have fun. Just knowing me, knowing who I am.
Yeah.
That's just awesome. And I don't think that there is a better way to discover who you are, your likes and your dislikes. I don't think there's a better way other than doing that when you are, by yourself, really
Yeah.
discovering who you are. Because there were a lot of things that I did and I thought I liked, but no, my ex-husband liked that stuff. My ex-boyfriend liked that stuff. It was
Sure.
like I was going along, for the ride.
Yeah.
But it's just learning who you are while you're single. That's the best part. Learning who you are and learning what your purpose is. What it is that you believe you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be moving forward in your life. Because if you connect and hook up with the wrong person, did it twice, they can throw you off your purpose. And if you never know what your purpose is and you hook up, with someone, and then you're just completely derailed, and it's just miserable.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and to that end, I would like to say that abusive people, abusers and manipulators are good at what they do, right? And so, yes, there are things that you can watch out for. Yes, there are things that you can do to protect yourself. But at the end of the day, we do have to realize that we're all susceptible to entering into these relationships.
Yes.
And no one knows that better than people who have been in the relationships, right? You're like, how did I get here? So, I think it's important to remember, like, do the work. The work is important. It is the most important. But also, if you get back into a relationship that is not good and it is abusive, it is controlling, it is manipulative, don't think I'm the broken one. Like, I'm just a bad picker, because that's not the case. The fact is that a lot of times, especially narcissists, will go after people who have their life together, who are independent, who do well by themselves. They're strong personalities. I don't know why, but it has been studied and it has been proven. But so I think it's important to just have grace and compassion with ourselves too. Like, we have so much grace and compassion for other people in our lives, other survivors. And we would never sit there and tell somebody, oh my gosh, like, you are the problem.
Yes.
No, you're not the problem. You live in a world where, unfortunately, these relationships are more common than we want to believe they are. And so, again, do the work, but also realize that whoever is perpetrating the abuse is the one that is responsible for the abuse.
Yes. And doing the work, it's not easy.
No.
It's hard, but it will be worth it in the end.
And yes, because let me tell you something. Doing the work has made me realize that I refuse to be in a relationship with somebody who has not done the work themselves.
Yes.
Right? And that doesn't mean that, like, they extricated themselves from an abusive relationship, right? It's just, are you working on yourself? Are you working on your self-awareness, your growth, your purpose, whatever that is for you? Once you put in the work, you start to realize, first of all, how valuable it is, because your life will completely
Yes.
change, but also how important it is to becoming somebody that grows exponentially and not just grows with age, right? grows
Yes.
in your purpose, grows in your values, how you see the world, how you see other people. So having done that myself and having, I have not arrived, there's always work to be done. But having done that myself, I can say with absolute certainty, I will not get into a relationship with somebody that has not done work themselves.
Yes. And any adult should be working on themselves every day. I mean, any mature adult, because none of us, whether you deal with abuse or not, none of us know it all. None of us
Mhm.
are perfect. So you should always be doing some work on yourself, either to get to where you want to be or to maintain where you are, and your emotions, mentally, and your physical stature, financial stature. We all should be doing some kind of work. And I can honestly say, because I did not do the work I should have done coming out of that first relationship, that's why I ended up in the second one. Okay. And when we say that you have to do the work, what we're saying, Lefbe, is that you have to deal with issues. You have to deal with mental and emotional issues. You have to deal with any reason that you can identify that led you into being into an abusive relationship or with a toxic person, or that led you to, stay there, not leave when you wanted to leave or needed to leave. You have to do that work. Yes, you can be lied to and manipulated, and you end up in this abusive relationship and you don't know how you got into it. But there are still issues that you will have to deal with coming out of that. You can't bury your head in the sand. So when I left my ex-husband, I was I felt like I'm good, I'm away. It's just done. I closed the door on it. I didn't want to deal with the fear, the anxiety. I didn't like being alone. I didn't like being in a room by myself. But I didn't work through all of that. Even though I was seeing my counselor also. I had my time with my counselor, but after that 55 minutes is over, there is still work that you have to do on yourself and with yourself. And I didn't want to deal with that, which is why I ended up in that second relationship, because I didn't want to be by myself, because I didn't want to deal with the fear. I didn't want to deal with the emotions, the anger, and all of it. I just pushed it away. But I had to be honest. I had to deal with, for me, it was fear. It was security. I had to deal with having stayed so long in that relationship because I was trying to be helpful. I was trying to help him and really wanted to make it work. I had to deal with all of that, and it did not feel good. And I can honestly say, had I done that after I left the first relationship, I would have never gotten into the second one, because the second one, I was viewing it as, all right, I dealt with the first one. I can, I can deal with this.
Yeah.
It was like the lesser of two evils, you know.
Sure.
I had to see and I had to feel. I had to come to that point where I understood I'm worth more than this. I don't
Yeah.
have to take the lesser of two evils. I need to be with who is good for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and you also have to take time to identify any patterns. Um, if there are any patterns, you have to see it, identify it, or you're just going to repeat those same patterns all over again.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly saying to yourself, I just don't want to be alone. I want somebody to watch TV with, hang out with, watch movies with, and just go out, hang out, and then you end up with somebody who turns out to be not a great person. You got to ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't sit and be with yourself for a few hours, which leads to another question: why can't you be alone with yourself?
Yep. Exactly.
Yourself. So when we say there's work that you have to do, there really is work
Yeah.
that you have to do. If you cannot sit with yourself, no TV, no phone, no radio, no nothing for an extended period of time, if you don't like you, something's wrong with it. And
Yes.
you need to find out why.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's two levels, or probably more than two, but we're talking about two levels of this here, right? Because we're saying that you cannot come out of a traumatic situation and not process your trauma, right?
Exactly.
Like you cannot do that. Your trauma will catch up to you. It will come out
Yes.
in some other area of your life. That is a fact. But there's also another layer of it, which says that, we are not often equipped as people to cope well with just life. Like life gets hard, right? And so having a dedicated person or place that you go to process the things that happen in your life and the emotions that follow with that, gives you the tools to process that. So yeah, coming out of trauma, you need therapy, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Exactly.
However, everybody, just because they are alive and living in the world, will benefit from taking an introspective look, taking some time to be self-aware, and equipping themselves with the tools to process their emotions and to learn to get healthier, get stronger, and learn how to be by yourself. It's terrifying, especially like immediately after you exit that relationship, because now going back to a domestic violence situation, but I imagine that's for pretty much any relationship.
Yeah.
After immediately exiting that relationship, you're like, questioning your self-worth, your value. And so it's almost like, how quick can I fill that void? And the best way to fill it is with another person. Just put that, like a cookie cutter, like put that person right in that role again. And that's just that's not a healthy way to view relationships at all. And again, like you said, Tia, it makes it so that we don't have to sit with ourselves and figure out what we actually need and where we're actually going. So yeah, it's really important. The other thing that I think is a huge piece of that, which we've already sort of touched on, is the idea that you have to be in a relationship to be valuable. Again, especially as a woman, that you see it played out all in front of you. Like, it's not your fault that you feel this way. you are told this from being a little girl. You are told this, that your value is going to come from your husband and children. It's not wrong to want those things. It's a great thing to want, but want it for the right reasons. Want it because you want to build a life with somebody, not because you want to check something off a box or off a list.
Right. So wanting it for yourself is absolutely important, but it's it's also I can't help but think about the church. For me, it's very irritating. I walk into, I don't know, an event, a conference somewhere, anything, and it's like this bishop over here needs a wife. It's like,
No.
like this this pastor needs someone to help him run this church. So it's like I'm single, so that means that you get to just throw me on this list of, like, you're trying to hook your friend up over here. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just weird.
It is. I have a lot of thoughts about this that I'm going to keep to myself, because this could take a whole different turn. So I will refrain. But
I think it goes back to, just I don't know where it comes from, whatever. I call it the American dream. I don't know, whatever it is, but just the thoughts that other people have of what, not only what happiness should be, but what your happiness should be. Yeah. Like, I did not walk into this room and say, "Hey, can you find someone for me?"
Yeah.
That did not happen.
Yeah.
And it's kind of almost like success being single is, I don't know, a curse a little bit, because it's like you get to a point and, like, people are telling me, all right, now you're ready for that. Now you're ready. And I am ready for it, but I don't need you to push me into somebody's arms. That I'm not, this is not going to work. I actually had someone walk up to me and another person in church.
Oh no.
We just happened to be standing next to each other. We were talking, and this person walked up to us both and said, "You know what? You're single. You're single. You should get together," with a straight face.
Oh boy. As if that's all that's required.
Yeah. So it's like we were
being in a room.
I mean, it's just it's annoying, but I can say that the level of success that I have, I've been more successful, more happy. I mean, I have much more in my single life than I did when I was married.
Mm-hmm.
I bought my first house, I have 2 cars, my finances are together, ministry is good. I have much more by myself, being healthy and whole
Yeah.
myself, than I did when I was, in a relationship, that I should not have been in. But I believe because where I am now, because I did the work, so now I'm bringing to the table my healthiness, my
Mm-hmm.
wholeness. And so
Yeah.
whomever is on the other side of that table needs to bring the same.
Exactly. Because
Right?
I am not your therapist. Right?
Exactly.
I am not your therapist. I do not. And this is a lot of, I'm getting close to the soapbox. I said I'm not going to get on tonight, but I'm going to go a little bit there. This is a part of, women are expected to just handle the emotional labor a lot of times within a relationship. And it's not fair to have, two supposedly equal partners coming together, and one of them is expected to handle all of the emotional labor. So when I say men do the work, what I mean is you figure out how to process your emotions, and there are a lot of men now that are going to therapy. There are a lot of men coming out of abusive relationships that are in therapy. And I say, that's fantastic. That is exactly what you need to do to be a better partner for somebody, and a better person for yourself, for your own self growth.
Yes.
I think it all calls back to, we are hardwired for love. We are in constant pursuit of love in different areas of our lives. So I think it's important to acknowledge that wanting a relationship is not weird. Wanting to be loved by someone, wanting to have a partner to walk through life is not weird. It's not wrong. It's not stupid. Wanting those things is very real, and it's a valid desire, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think I want to say that out loud, because we're saying a lot of other things. And I just want to say, especially where I'm coming from too, like, it is a very valid desire of your heart to want a partner to walk through life with.
Yes.
I can say for me, part of my growth has been realizing that there are a lot of different avenues of love and relationship, and it doesn't and it shouldn't all have to come from one source, right? And so a lot of realizing, like, through my healing process, is that if you pin all of your hopes and dreams on one person, on your partner, on your husband, your wife, whatever, you are destined to be disappointed.
Yes.
Right? You can, first of all, your happiness cannot come from somebody else.
Yes.
But we have different relationships in our lives to meet different needs. And so, don't give up your friendships. Pour into your friendships, pour into your family members, pour into your romantic relationships. It's not, we shouldn't just be focusing on one thing, because there is a lot of value for what we can give and receive each other when we are really flourishing in different areas of our lives with different types of relationships.
Yes. So I agree with everything that you just said, and I do think wanting a relationship, a healthy relationship, is absolutely beautiful. It's normal. I believe we were created for relationships, romantic and platonic and familial relationships. And again, I do want a relationship. I do want to move on again into what will be a healthy and whole marriage. I believe that I am prepared for that, and I'm just going through my process of for whenever it's going to come to pass. Um, but you have to know your value. You have to know your worth. You have to be in a place where you are healed enough to even enter and consider a relationship. And you have to have standards. I've had people walk up to me and say, God told me you're my wife. And I'm like,
That could be a whole other conversation.
the Lord didn't speak to me about that.
Oh,
So I think you need to go back and pray or whatever. And not and I but I mean, if I was not who I am, if I was not in a healthy place, I could listen to somebody say that and just go along with it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I Jen, I have so many stories. I was having a conversation with a bishop. He's a bishop in New Jersey. We were just talking. What I thought was just a conversation. I mean, I was paying attention, but it clicked in my mind as we were talking. Like, he was asking me questions, like he's interviewing me, like he's looking for a wife. And I'm like, and I know, if you're interested in someone, you do have to have conversations and you do ask questions and things like that. But I'm like, can you like clue me in on like the direction that you're trying to go in?
Sure,
so I can help you, so I can stop you.
Yeah. I can tell you right now which way this is going to go.
Like, I could have saved you a few precious moments because that's not what this is about right now.
Yeah.
But you have to have standards. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you like, what you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn yourself. And you know what? You have to appreciate yourself in such a way where you know that you are beautiful, you know that you are intelligent, you know who you are and what you are, so that when a man or woman comes along and says you're beautiful, you're not just blown away and you just,
Yes.
your head is just so filled because somebody said you're beautiful. No, you stand in the mirror and tell yourself that you're beautiful. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like, all right, I know I'm beautiful. Now what else you got? Like, I need more than that. You know what I mean? And it's like, take care of yourself financially, because if someone comes along and they're throwing money at you, a lot of people are stuck right now in abusive and non-abusive relationships because they're tied up into somebody else's finances because they couldn't afford to live the life or manage their life financially on their own. Now you're with the person who you do not like,
Mm-hmm.
or who is hurting you or causing you harm because of finances. So no, you take care of your finances. You and I'm not saying that we all have to be millionaires, because we're not. But manage your own home, manage your finances. So when you truly step out of your door and you're ready for a relationship, it is because of the healthy reasons of being ready to be in a relationship, not because I need somebody to pay bills. Not because I'm just so afraid to be by myself. I just want somebody to sit here on a couch next to me. So again, it goes back to doing the work and having standards.
Yep.
I mean, there are, Jen, guys want to drive my car.
No.
They want to spend my
Get out of
money.
here.
They want to have sex. They want to shoot my gun, and not in that order. But like, these things are not going to happen. Okay, so when you come to the table with me, you need to have your own finances, your own money, your own car, your own house, your own whatever. And I'm not saying you have to be Rockefeller rich, but what I am saying, what I know for myself is, I'm not doing the whole I see the potential when you think again. I'm 47 years old. I put my time in on that train already. No, I'm not dealing with potential. I need to see the fruit. I need to see the evidence.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's, again, calling back to what we mean when we say do the work. I need to see the evidence that you have done the work. Because there are too many people getting married too young.
Yeah.
I was one of them, because that is what you're supposed to do. That is the natural progression in life. And calling back to what you said before, I didn't know myself at 20. I didn't know myself at 25. I mean, truly, your 20s are the time to figure so much of this out, and your time to mess up. So I think it's important that, you realize, especially I think in religious places, religious communities, we are telling people that it is like the height, especially women, it is the height of achievement to get married. And unfortunately, what that leaves mostly women with is at best unfulfilling relationships because they don't know who they are, their partner doesn't know who they are, and at worst abusive relationships.
Yeah.
Where they're having children, they're financially dependent, all of these things that keep people in abusive relationships. You know, it doesn't all just happen at once. It happens over time, and it builds and it builds. But yeah, I look at myself now, and I look at myself at 10, 15 years ago. I am so far from that person. And
Yeah.
that's what it should be like. You should be so far from that person. So I think it's important that we know what, like you said, what your standards are, whatever that means to you. You know, it shouldn't just be a physical or a financial thing. Emotionally, what do you expect out of a partner? Around the house, domestic labor, what do you expect out of a partner? All of these things, you should, on some level, know what your expectations are, and don't feel like it's too much. You're not too much for asking for what you need out of a relationship.
Yes. And all of those questions and more are questions that should be asked in the dating phase, in the phase where, you know, if you feel like you are going to get married. I mean, you don't meet someone and you just pour out everything.
Right.
But as you're going along, and if you get to that point, you know, you've built up trust, you're able to communicate, you know, and both of you agree, you know, this is a person I can move forward in my life. That you need to ask all the questions. I mean, what is your credit score? What do your finances look like? And I mean, these are serious questions. You need to talk. You need to talk about finances. How do you think finances should be handled? Separate accounts, joint accounts. Like, talk to me. What do you think? How are you with money? Like, are you in Vegas every week? You know, do you play the slot machines before you pay the mortgage? Like, what are you living above your means? What is it? Because if you're talking about spending the rest of your life with the person, these are things I need to know, because once you say I do, what you do affects me physically, financially, mentally, emotionally, even if it's not abuse. Even if you say we're two healthy people, what you do affects me.
Yes.
We need to talk about, how do we communicate? Okay,
Yeah.
can we sit? Can we have a conversation? How do we deal with families? You know, can we have a private conversation between us? Or do you need to bring your mom and your sisters and everybody into this? I need to know this now. I need to cut cords right now. If it's not going to go the way, you know, that I'm thinking it should go in my mind. And please, Love Bae, please do not enter into a relationship and get married to someone and think that you're going to change them, because that is not how life works. And that is how some of us got further into abusive relationships, because we thought, I can change him, I can change her, I can help them. There's serious conversations you need to have. You need to talk about sex. What is your idea about sex? What do you think? Because there are some people who have, you know, their upbringings or things that they got into, their thinking and thoughts on sex were shaped in a way that is totally unhealthy or unrealistic. And you can go on both sides of the spectrum. You can have someone who is into nothing but pornography, who is going to bring something that is not reality into the bedroom. Then you can have a person who is just so steeped in off the wall traditional church values, and it's like, you're not supposed to enjoy sex at all. You know, we're only doing this if we're going to have kids, and that's just it. And that's wrong too. I mean, because it should be enjoyable, it should be pleasurable. And you need to be real on the table. All right, is this, you know, just me and you, monogamous, or is your mind somewhere else? Are you like every 2-3 months you want somebody else, or you need to be clear.
Yeah.
You need to be straight. And if you are afraid to ask a question, then you shouldn't be with that person. If I cannot honestly speak my mind, if I cannot ask you the questions on my mind, if I cannot express my thoughts, why am I with you?
Yeah.
that is not how a relationship is supposed to go. And I would dare say, at the very, very base and foundation of relationships, you need to be friends. If we're not friends, then what do you have?
Yeah, if you don't enjoy spending time together, but you're attracted to each other, that's nothing. That is not
gonna help. Look, once sex is over, it's over. Then it's like we don't have anything to talk about.
Right.
It's like once the movie is over, it's over. We go on this trip, we got to get back home eventually. If you don't have the foundation of friendship, something is wrong with that. And these are questions you really have to ask yourself.
Absolutely.
Is this person my friend?
Ask yourself and ask your partner, you know, or who you want to be your partner.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to talk about the fact that, I grew up in the church. And so this is something that I specifically heard in church. And I don't know if it's as popular in a secular environment. I can't really speak to that. But one thing that I heard over and over and over again is how hard marriage was. Marriage is hard. Don't expect marriage to be easy. And one thing that I have been personally unpacking is that, no relationship is all good all the time, especially if you spend a significant amount of time with someone, right? But I think about like my mom, or I think about my best friend, and my relationship with them has never been unenjoyable. There may be difficult conversations that we've had to have. There may be times where I'm frustrated or annoyed with them, but I have never had feelings of like, I don't know how I'm going to continue on in relationship with this person. And so when I think about it from that framework, it's like, why are we so set on this idea that marriage should basically be impossible, right? And so like, you should be unhappy. You should be struggling to make it work, right? I think there's almost this nobility that's been attached to that, or this value or morality that's been attached to that. Like, if you can struggle through your marriage, crawl through it, even though you've basically come to despise the other person, then, good job. And I just think, like, I don't know where exactly that's come from, but I think it's absolutely wrong.
It is. It is absolutely wrong. And I think it comes from the abnormality that we have made abusive relationships normal. And I think that's what it is, because we're dealing with, and again, it's not just physical abuse, mental, emotional, financial abuse. Some of the struggles that individuals have in their relationships, they do not even know and understand that what you're dealing with is abuse.
Yes.
And so the answer that many people come up with is, let me just put my head down and plow through it. All right. I know she's going to yell and scream at me, so I'm not going to work, going to the bar after work with the guys. I'm going to skip happy hour because she's going to yell, scream at me. I'm just going to go home. That's abuse. So that's not just, let me just dig my heels in and deal with it. No, that's abuse. To have to account for where you are every single moment, that's not normal. So I think we have taken what we are not calling abuse, what most of us have grew up in. We've grown up in it, so it's normal to us, and this is how we're coping, and this is how we're telling other people to cope. That marriage is hard, and so you just bear down, and you just get through it. But no, when I think about marriage, I think marriage is hard, but I think it's hard in the sense that I have to hold up my responsibility, that this is a great responsibility. I love this person, so I'm going to do what I need to do to make this work in a healthy way. And that means I have to be attentive. I have to pay attention to him or her. I have to speak my mind. We have to have hard conversations. We have to make time. I think it's hard in a sense where you just have to put in the time and the energy. There are things that you do because I don't want to do it, but he wants to do it. She wants to do it. it, so I'm going to go that extra mile. That's what you do. This
Exactly.
can be hard in a sense where I'm dreading the sight of this person.
Right.
That's that's
Something different.
crazy. That's completely different.
And I challenge people to think of it from the perspective of not a partner, but a different relationship in your life. And yes, I understand that there are different nuances here, but generally speaking, if we're wired for love, if we're wired for relationship, then do we have these other relationships that we've separated from romantic relationships and said, these are completely different. Again, yes, there are nuances between different types of relationships, but generally speaking, if you can approach your familial relationships, your friendships, and say, man, having them in my life makes me a better person. I am able to pour into them. I see the value in that. And you don't see that in your romantic relationship, then that's a problem. And that needs to be addressed one way or the other, right? And like
Yeah,
you said, Tia, earlier, I mean, you've mentioned it several times now. If you feel like you cannot talk to a person, you can't ask questions, you can't say certain things, if you are walking on eggshells, that is a huge, huge red flag that things have already gone way too far.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It always bothered me to hear women say, I keep secrets from my husband. I don't tell my husband everything. That always bothered me because I feel like if I can't tell you everything, then something's wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand that, all right, you may not want to talk about the spa, or, you may not talk about, want to talk about I don't know, the little things that make me happy. I sit and I color in my coloring book sometimes. You might not want like all the little details. I get that. I get that there are some things that, men will not understand. Like, I can have a conversation with you, when I'm just, not feeling well. If I'm, if we're talking about menstrual cycles, things like that, there are some things that will go over a man's head. I get that. There's a time and a place for that. There are some things that a sister is for, a girlfriend is for.
Mm-hmm.
But if I truly have something on my heart and my mind that I want to share with you, even if I share it with another person or not, if I have to hold that back, to me, something is wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to tell you anything if you are the person that's in my life. And for me, that's something that I'm looking for. That is something that is very important to me when I step into my next relationship. If I can't share my heart and mind, if I can't trust you, then something's wrong with that. And as you said, there are different nuances, and relationships are different. But I truly believe that there is something within a marriage, that I will not be able to get or achieve in my other relationships. So other relationships should supplement the marriage. You don't put all your faith and time and energy into one person and think that they're just going to be the end all be all, because you will be disappointed. No one person can do everything, but there are some things that I believe are very significant and important that to me could only come from my husband. But again, that will be a conversation we have to have before we get into, actually intertwining and sharing our lives together.
Right.
So if this right here, what I'm saying to you, if I can't have this conversation with him, why are we together? It
Exactly.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
You have to be able to acknowledge that. And I really want to go back to a point that you made earlier. Relationships after domestic violence, we're not just talking about romantic relationships. You have to look at your friendships, and you have to look at family relationships, and you need to make adjustments if
Mm-hmm.
you need to make those adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Forward in friendships, if there's something that you need to change, because abuse does not happen just in romantic relationships. Sometimes abuse is a part of dynamics where their friendships, their family relationships, relationships at work. You can deal with coworkers or bosses or employees. So you need to look at all of your relationships. You need to set boundaries where your boundaries need to be set, and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
If there is someone who is constantly triggering you, that's not a person that needs to be in your life. I believe anything can happen one time, because you don't know until you know.
Sure.
But once I say this is a problem, we have a conversation about it, you continue to do the same thing, that's a problem. You need to be out of my space. Or
Absolutely.
sometimes it only takes one time. There could be something that happens, and it was just detrimental, and it's like I have to make a change.
Well, and a lot of times that comes from things that have been leading up to it, right? Like
Yeah.
nothing comes completely out of the blue, right? Behavior escalates. And when we're talking about abuse, we're talking about patterns of behavior. And so if one thing happens that is like the thing that is like, I cannot move forward from here. I don't want to say always, because there's usually an exception to every rule. But generally speaking, it's because behavior has been escalating. There are other red flags present. And a lot of times it's just we get into relationship with people and we want to believe the best in people that we care about. And so I think it's important that we just keep our eyes open to the possibility that anybody can be an abuser and anybody can be a victim.
Yes. And you love yourself. You care for yourself. Look, once I tell you this right here is an issue, it's a problem, and you don't make the correction that you need to make, or if I make corrections and set boundaries that I need to make in my life and you have a problem with that, then you don't need to be in my space. Something is wrong with that.
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention. It could be someone is doing X, Y, and Z to other people in other spaces, and then it was turned and done to you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like we're not going there. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, even if you are caught off guard or there are patterns and it just built up, and then you had to do something or say something about it. Whatever it is, the bottom line is you have to take care of yourself, and you have to pay close attention when you're dealing with relationships after or while dealing with the trauma that comes along with domestic violence and sexual assault. You also have to pay attention and be honest with yourself, because there were times that I had to look at myself, and it wasn't the other person, it wasn't the situation, it was me, because I didn't deal with some leftover fear, or I didn't deal with anger. For me, anger was a huge thing. And when I could really see the anger was an issue for me, it was because there would be situations and something would happen. My response to the situation was not warranted.
Yeah.
Now, whatever it was that happened, it should not have happened, but I could go 0 to 100 really quick.
I hear you. I
And
feel
I feel like, you know what, you shouldn't have did whatever you did. You shouldn't have said whatever you said. I dealt with it, and that's it.
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so it wasn't that sometimes it's not that you have to draw boundaries with other people. Sometimes it goes back to our earlier point. You have to do the work within you.
Exactly.
I had to deal with my anger, and I had to deal with my anger more than one time.
Yeah.
It was a real thing, and that's something that I learned, on this walk, my walk and my healing process, that I've had to deal with my anger several times. There were times where I thought I forgave my ex-husband and I didn't, and then there were times that I truly did, but something just rose up, and it was just there, and I just had to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it goes back to being honest with yourself, giving yourself, a check. Sometimes you need to have someone else who is there, someone who you could talk to, a counselor or a friend. And even as we're talking about relationships, friendships, I can honestly say for me, some of the closest or best friendships that I have are with people that I connected to them through our experiences of
Mhm.
the trauma. And And I'm not saying that it's good to just connect with people if they have trauma, because that's a whole nother problem. That is not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, like, just to use us for an example, Jen and I connected because of our trauma, but our friendship has grown. Like, we connect to each other in other areas. We have conversations, we can support each other, and we move on in our lives, but we do have that common denominator of that trauma, which for me makes it very easy if I need to go to Jen and speak to Jen about anything, because she already knows, not just having a knowledge of my history, but she has her own experience. So a lot of times she understands what I feel because she's felt it. She understands my thought process because she's thought it. And it makes it easier if I sit with Jen and I say, I just had a trigger, or this just bothered me, or this is a situation that came up, and I don't have to explain, A, B, C, and D. It really makes that easier. So some of my closest friendships are friendships that I have because we connected through our trauma. And I can say every person that I connected to through trauma, each of us are doing the work that we need to do. So we didn't connect and just we're not just coming together in misery and just, all right, who has the bottle of wine tonight? And we're just going to cry all night long. No,
Right.
it's not that. We've all made and are making progress in our healing journeys. But for me, that's something that's it's very special, and it's helpful because it's hard to connect with people and deal with people, and there are just some things they just don't understand. And I say all the time, when I walk into a room, no matter where I am, if I've never been in that place, I need to know where the exits are, because that makes me feel comfortable. Whereas the average person will look at me like, well, why? What are you doing? And I mean, it's like, I'm not going through the backstory. It's like, I just can't.
Yeah.
If the room is too crowded, I can't be in there. I just can't. There are things that I need to do for myself that I would think, if this person is calling themselves my friend, would understand, but sometimes they don't. And so there are some things that, there are just some boundaries that I know I need to set with. It depends on whomever I'm dealing with, and everybody's not a friend. We use that word loosely, so you have to know: is this a friend? Is this an associate, an acquaintance? Is this a romantic partner? Is this, whomever? So we also, when you're dealing with relationships, especially after dealing with or while dealing with domestic violence, you need to know what category you're putting people in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, vulnerability is really a gift, and you get to decide who you want to give that to.
Yeah.
I think I genuinely believe that vulnerability is a huge key to human connection. So I think it is important within relationships, but you do not owe everybody the same amount of vulnerability.
Exactly.
And if people prove that they cannot be trusted with your vulnerability, then you do not have to keep giving that to them. I
Exactly.
think, one thing that we say all the time on here is that healing is not linear, which means that you get to draw and redraw and redraw and redraw your boundaries as many times as you want. As you find out new things about yourself, as you change and as you grow, you get to move the lines and say, who's in, who's not, who I'm holding at a distance, who I'm welcoming into my inner circle, where my boundaries are. And it's important that we that we give ourselves permission to do that, because it is a part of healing, is recognizing that you get to choose who those people are, and you get to, again, redraw those lines if things change. I think that one of the things that we struggle with sometimes is we say, this is who I am. And then we get years down the road and things don't look the same anymore. And we struggle with identity. But I think what we need to realize is that we should be changing, we should be growing, and all of that is fluid. So one of the other things that we need to realize is that if people aren't growing with us in relationship, if they're not growing as well, doesn't mean you have to be on the same track, doesn't mean you have to be on the same journey, but if they're not growing as well, then that is really creating a situation where someone is going to start behaving in unhealth, acting in unhealth. That is prime for creating an abusive environment, because somebody is not doing the work and they are watching as other people move on and they start to panic. They're losing control. They don't know what's going on. And I'm not saying it's a conscious thing, but we need to be aware of who is around us, who is growing, and who is respecting the boundary lines that we're drawing.
Yes. And I want to say, and I know we're just over the hour.
This is what happens when it's just you and me talking.
I know we just go. Oh, but I want to say two things, and then I'll ask you for your final comment of the evening. And I believe that this is a topic we need to revisit. We need to come back to it. But I wanted to say two things. One is that what Jen was just speaking of, I want to say that is a form of abuse and manipulation. When you find yourself moving forward, making process, moving in your process, making progress in your process, and individuals or an individual wants to stop you, if someone wants to pull you backwards, if someone wants to keep you where you are to make themselves feel better because they aren't making progress, because they aren't moving. And as Jen says, you don't have to be on the same track, but at least be moving forward, at least be going in the same direction. If someone wants to keep you in their circle, just hold you back, that's manipulation, that's abuse, that's mental and emotional abuse, that's psychological abuse. So somebody to actually try to make you feel bad for becoming better, for doing what you need to do, for going further. And that's not something that you need. And there are times when sometimes you actually have to make a complete cut. And then there are just some times where you just need to reset your boundaries. So just be mindful and know what it is that you need to do for yourself. Just be empowered to do what you need to do for you in every area of your life, at work, at church, at home, in friendships, at the gym, in a supermarket, wherever you are. Be empowered to make the decisions that you need to make. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, I would say that you have to make a decision every day. Mm-hmm. Every day that you get up, you have to make a decision. What am I going to do? Who am I going to be? How am I going to move along? And who am I going to let affect my progress? And the second thing that I wanted to say, I just wanted to reiterate again, it is okay to be single. It is okay to be in a relationship. Whatever you want, I want that for you. Mm-hmm. Just be in a healthy place when you're making your decisions. I've shared, I'll share again. I do want to be married again. Love Bay, when I get married, I'll let you all know. But
we're gonna have to live stream the wedding.
That's an awesome idea. I want to be healthy, and my thoughts are not everybody else's thoughts. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to think what you think. Again, I've said I'm 47. I'm not doing the whole potential thing. I'm not. You have to be prepared. You have to have fruit. I need to see some evidence. That is where I am. But I understand the want, the desire to be in a relationship. It is normal. It is healthy. And it's okay. But you need to know why. Why do you want that relationship? Romantic or friendship or work, whatever it is. Why do you want it? Are you trying to fill a void that no person can fill? Are you trying to fill a void that only God can fill? Are you trying to fill a void that you should be working on? You have to be honest with yourself. And we really want to encourage you on tonight. So I don't want to leave this evening with anyone feeling bad about wanting to be in a relationship or not wanting to be in a relationship. That was not the intent at all on tonight. Whatever you decide is okay. Just decide it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And I really just feel very strongly right now just to say, somebody, I just really feel it. You have to stop running from yourself. Before you can think about being with another person, you have to deal with yourself. No, you were not wrong. No, you didn't make another person hurt you. You didn't make a person abuse you. No, that is not your fault. But there is still work that you have to do. You have to work on yourself. You have to deal with the fear. You have to deal with the shame. You have to deal with the hurt that it caused you. And that's for you to be healthy and whole. And again, if you are not healthy and whole, none of us, you have no business trying to enter into a relationship, romantic or friendship, with anyone else, because you will hurt that other person intentionally or unintentionally. And we don't want to continue a trail of hurt and pain. So with that, I want to give Jen the final words on tonight. I know we ran over Love Bay, and I promise we will come back to this topic. But thank you so much, Jen, for being with us. And I would ask you to leave us with some final words on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just like to piggyback off the last thing that you said and just kind of add to that, which is to say that, when we say healthy and whole, we know that there is no one definition for that. And it also there is no arrival for that. You will never be complete, right? Like that is part of just being a human. There are always ways to grow and move forward. So, but I promise you, if you commit to being honest and you commit to not putting a time limit on it, seeking healing and help is the best thing that you will ever do for yourself. The best thing. So keep those two things in mind. You have to be honest and you can't put a time limit on it. But if you abide by those two rules, it will be the absolute best thing that you do for yourself, and you will not look back and regret it. You won't regret the time, and you won't regret, the money that it may cost. It's important. You are important. You are valuable, and you are worth the effort that it takes to be healthy and to feel good.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jen. And as you were speaking, I had one more thought. Just one more. Okay, so Love Bay, the person that comes into your life will be a person who will be able to help you and will be a person that understands. Now, nobody can fix you. No one should be a crutch. You do have to be in a place where you are healthy and whole enough to move forward in a relationship. But the person that you're connected to should be understanding of your past and your trauma. And if they're not, then that's not the right person for you. That's something else that as you were speaking, I just really started just feeling it. And so I just want to say, because that's on somebody's mind, like, will this person be able to handle me? Will this person be able to handle my trauma? If they can't, that's not the person for you.
Yep.
It's not. If you cannot say, I'm having a panic attack and, this is what bothered me. And if this person is ridiculing you, if this person is not taking the time and energy to understand, to maybe do some research, to go to websites and get information, that is a person who cares about you, a person who loves you. That's what that person will do. Yep. If they're not doing that, then that's a red flag. So I just don't even have that worry. The person who comes into your life should add help and understanding. And so, Love Baby, thank you so much. We do hope that tonight was helpful. We will, again, absolutely revisit this topic. If you want to catch up on previous episodes of the program, you can visit our YouTube channel, Suffering in Silence DV. Thank you for joining Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia. And thank you so much, Jen, for being with us, host of The Human Experience. We're here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Love Bay, we want you to remember that we are rising out of the ashes together. Have a